Hi, and welcome to cast number 28 in my series 100 Casts, in which I will be casting over 100 games of League of Legends sent in to me by fans and friends. If you want your replay featured in the channel, check the description. You can figure out how to do that down there. See you at the end of the video. Alrighty folks, let's get into this replay, shall we? So this one was sent in to me by... I'm actually not sure of the name. I'll have to look in the email that I got again, but I'm sure it'll be... Really? I did not realize that Cho'Gath could do that in that skin. That is wonderful. Apparently Mecha Cho'Gath can play music out of speakers on his back, and I was thrown entirely off track by that. That's wonderful. I'm sorry. Anyways, it is a fairly lower level game. I believe it's somewhere in lower silver, higher bronze, if I recall correctly, so we can expect a lot of action out of this one. That's the one overarching theme that I've seen out of lower elos, is that they like to kill people. They like to fight. They really, really do like to fight, and they like to get kills. And I believe one of my casts previously has over 100 kills by like the 30-minute mark, which is just insane. I don't know how they can pack that much action into a game, but it certainly gives me something to cast about. And it doesn't look like anybody's going to be going for an invade here. Teemo actually might be proving me wrong, though. He's going to be face-checking into this bush with the Ahri. He gets a few auto-attacks landed onto him, another one coming out from the Vayne, too. Sivir showing up, though, to discourage the enemy team from chasing any further. And the Teemo just loses a little bit of his health bar. Nothing serious happening there. I would like to talk about the matchups right now. Bottom lane, where I usually like to start, is a little bit interesting this game. These supports specifically are interesting. On purple team, there's a Gragas support, which is unorthodox, but certainly never unheard of. And on blue team, there's a Teemo support, which is closer to unheard of than Gragas support, though I can certainly see how it would work. An AD carry is very, very reliant on auto attacks, and so a blind is certainly a powerful enough form of CC to be relevant in those duels down in bottom lane. Nidalee has obviously gone with traps first, as you can see from the way that this red buff is spawning and immediately getting trapped up. And also, an interesting thing that I'd like to mention again, Nidalee is the jungler for blue team. God. Cho'Gath going on with those speakers again up in top lane. That's really wonderful. I did not know that happened. That is... Kudos to Riot for putting that into that skin, as the top lane is a little bit more standard of a matchup. I mean, Cho'Gath isn't seen too often anymore, but Renekton is certainly a standard top laner. I don't think you get much more standard than that. And in the mid lane, we have a Sivir mid going against an Ahri, as down in bottom lane, the Vayne and Teemo were going at it with Ezreal landing a few auto attacks in there too, as well as a final Q, bringing the Vayne down very low. She's quite hurting in this matchup here, but thankfully she does have a health pot as well as a Doran Blade to help her sustain some of that damage back up out of the lane, as in mid lane we see Ahri and Sivir going at it, landing a few auto attacks each as well as a burst from some of their spells. I can certainly see Sivir being a mid laner. She does have, as far as AD carries go, she does have a lot more spell damage than most AD carries. It's not magic spell damage, it's still physical damage, but it certainly allows for her to clear waves and burst a lot more effectively, which are some of the characteristics of a mid laner. As down in bottom lane, the Vayne is forced to burn her heal. She goes to face check a bush, or rather place a ward in it. The Teemo was invisible there for a moment, trying to ambush the Vayne again, but he gets knocked out of invisibility by the Gragas, who obviously saw him go into invisibility there. As we see up in top lane, the Nidalee going for the first gank of the game. The Renekton does go down to the red buff burn for first blood, going over to Nidalee. As now Sivir, her spell shield runs out just as the charm connects. She's forced to use heal to try and escape, as the Elise was ganking into her lane. Thankfully, Elise doesn't want to go under the tower with Repel. Teemo flashing forward and blinding, then auto-attacking the Vayne to finish off that last bit of health she had remaining. And already, at just about 4 minutes into the game, we have an insane amount of action as 2 ganks happen, 2 kills happen, and just things happening all over the board in every single lane. Gragas now in a little bit of trouble, going down quite low to the Teemo's harass, and this Teemo support has really been working out for him. Not only has he picked up a kill for himself, but he's managed to harass the Vayne enough that she's down by about 5 or 6 CS, which it's 4 minutes into the game, so she can certainly come back from that, but there's already a CS lead for his AD carry, as well as a kill. Now, Cho'Gath is being assaulted by this Renekton. The Renekton did teleport back to lane, and so he was at full health, whereas the Cho'Gath was still somewhat low from the earlier duels. And so he had the advantage in that fight, was able to run forward and bully the Cho'Gath away. As down in bottom lane, the turret is already under fire, taking some auto attacks from the Ezreal and the Teemo, who has opted for a Doran's Ring start, by the way, so he's certainly looking to get some damage in. That's probably why those blinds were hurting so much early on. He certainly went for a heavy damage start. He's trying to do that same maneuver that he was using earlier, the ambush out of his passive. However, he might be foiled in his plans as here comes Elise, healed, forced out of the Ezreal. Elise going into repel and jumping down onto the Ezreal. However, she went quite low in this gank, and so Teemo's able to pick up another kill for himself as now Nidalee has come down to the bottom lane looking to dissuade the enemies from tower diving his friendly Teemo, and she does manage to do that. Whew, that was quite a gank there, both junglers coming down. The Nidalee not arriving quite in time to make anything happen in terms of kills for her team, though the Elise did go down to the Teemo, which puts him at 2-0. Coming up big in this Teemo support, and there's about a 500 gold lead on the board here for blue team at a 3-1 kill advantage at about 5.5 minutes into the game. As we see up in top lane, the Cho'Gath and Renekton going at it once again, neither of them quite at level 6 yet. Their level 6s are certainly going to make quite a difference in these duels. The knock-up not quite landing from Cho'Gath, as Renekton did manage to slice and dice out of it, and both of them are fairly low on health, but they do both have sustained, Cho'Gath in his passive and Renekton in his Q, as down in bottom lane, the Teemo is on a killing spree. He does get shut down immediately thereafter by the Vayne, giving some gold over to her, as now Ezreal and Vayne are in a 1v1. The Vayne does have a red buff, though, and so is able to bully the Ezreal away. I don't think he really wants to stick around here. The Vayne just needs one more tumbled auto attack to take him out, so it's really dangerous for him to stick around, though he does have potions running, so he might be able to sustain back up some of his health and stick around for this creep, as now we see Elise and Nidalee both near the mid lane. Nidalee leaping over that wall there to go onto the Elise. Elise not seeming to realize that there's a cat on her tail, is going to be going for the gank anyway, chasing after Sivir, bringing her down quite low, and both junglers forced to back off as both mid laners fell very low in that gank, counter gank situation, and nothing goes down there aside from some summoner spells and health bars. However, the Ahri still in the bush, trying to land a charm there, but Nidalee thankfully managed to sidestep it as it was thrown out of the bush. And so Ahri is forced to just walk away with all of her tails between her legs. As now Sivir and Nidalee are going to be pushing up the middle lane. Nice spear landing onto the Ahri. Can they do the tower dive? However, Ahri lands the charm onto Nidalee after she leaps onto him. And that is Nidalee going down to the tower damage, as now Elise is chasing after the Sivir. She dodges the cocoon with that speed buff that she's getting from her ulti, and thus manages to survive, avoiding that stun. Did take some damage and go down quite low, but if she had been stunned, she probably would have died in that situation. So thankfully her ulti gave her enough speed to be able to sidestep that effectively. And as I was saying, there is quite a lot of death and action going on in this game. 7 kills at just about 7 minutes. That is a kill a minute. Let's see if they keep up that ratio. This game is certainly giving me a lot to talk about, as we see that Gragas and Vayne are pushing in onto the Ezreal and Teemo down in bottom lane. The Ezreal has been harassed down to about half of his health, and up in top lane, level 6s have occurred now. The Renekton doing a nice job of slice and dicing out of that Q from the Cho'Gath, so he avoids the knock-up, but now he's trading with the Cho'Gath again, gets silenced so he can't continue on with the stun. Gets knocked up again, he's gone down quite low, he's about at half health. Cho'Gath still chasing after him, landing a few more auto attacks. He does slice and dice away, so he might be able to escape here. And yet Cho'Gath's just going to return to attacking the minions and pushing that lane up under the tower, trying to deny Renekton as much CS as he can. Cho'Gath actually has a slight lead in CS up in the top lane, but not much of one, as the top lane has been staying fairly even overall. Speaking of CS, the Ezreal has managed to get a 10 CS lead or so onto the Vayne, so that is certainly going to help him out. It's always a good thing to try and take advantage of Vayne's laning phase as much as you can, since that is when she's weakest in the game, and she's only going to be scaling harder and harder as the game goes on. Though having a blind on their team was certainly going to help out blue team with that Teemo blind, preventing the Vayne from auto-attacking, as up in top lane, Renekton and Cho'Gath are going at it once again. They keep coming out exactly even out of these trades. They're both at about third health, and they both have sustain. So they're both... It's just an incredibly even fight up in top lane in terms of CS, in terms of health bars, but Nidalee up here to try and turn the tides of this fight, perhaps. She has double buffs running on her, as down in bottom lane, the Gragas is going to be knocking Teemo out of invisibility again with the belly slam, landing his W and Q to do a huge bunch of damage, as Vayne's tumbling into final hour, chasing after the Teemo. The heal pop from Ezreal, though, and Vayne is blinded, so Teemo's not going to be going down here, as now Vayne does go down to the Ezreal, and Gragas is in a bit of a pickle. He flashes away to try and escape, throws down the Q to slow down the Ezreal, and it looks like he's going to be able to get away with his life. But the Vayne, that blind really foiling her plans as she goes down to the enemy Ezreal after getting blinded by Teemo and preventing the Teemo's death. She really focused on that Teemo, chased through the Ezreal to try and get him. I guess the global taunt passive of Teemo is really in full effect today. So Renekton and Cho'Gath still evenly dueling it out. I may as well just not even like say anything about this top lane. It's just you can assume that they're going to have about equal health bars and about equal creep scores. Though actually Cho'Gath has picked himself up a 10 CS lead at this point, probably because he's been able to push up continually as we see Ahri ulting onto the Sivir, trying to get that kill, but Nidalee shows up in time to dissuade her from keeping that chase going. And then Nidalee lands a nice spear, and with that passive, the Hunt, she manages to leap under the tower after her with that elongated leap that her passive gives her, and with a execute from her Q, takes out the Ahri, who bit off a bit more than she could chew and didn't realize that the jungler was nearby to help out the enemy mid laner, and so goes down for her troubles. Nice pink ward from the Gragas, going to be spotting out one of the first Teemo shrooms placed on the map, but there's going to be a lot more to come. Those things last for 10 minutes, which I've always thought is a little bit silly how long the Teemo mushrooms last, but I mean, it is his trademark ability. If there's a Teemo in the game, you can be sure to step on a few mushrooms at some point. Cho'Gath landing some damage onto the Renekton, however, he was near the tower range, and so he gets targeted by the tower as well, and so the damage is traded back essentially evenly. As usual, it seems like Cho'Gath is actually maxing his Feral Scream in this lane, as it's doing a bunch of damage whenever he manages to cast it onto the enemy Renekton, which I actually agree with. It's the easiest to land of all of his skill shots, and so it allows you to do a lot of reliable damage. The Elise has roamed up to the top lane out of her jungle. She misses the cocoon. Nice sidestep by the Cho'Gath there. He does get stunned, though, by the Renekton, and it looks like he's going to be going down here. The Renekton does land another auto attack there at the very end to take him out. Vayne in final hour being ganked by the Nidalee and Teemo. Thankfully, a Gragas ulti maybe going to save her life. Nidalee tries to go under the tower to chase down the Vayne, but Vayne still had flash up and so was able to escape. And that is all of her summoners burned, as well as the Gragas ulti, but she at least lived. Nice spell shield coming out from Sivir there to block that charm, as we see Nidalee, Teemo, and Ezreal all going after this tower down in the bottom lane. It's down to about half health already. Flash forward from the Ezreal chasing after this Gragas. He's quite low. However, Ezreal has already used his ulti, so he's not able to keep chasing. Oh, the Teemo auto attack, gonna finish off that Vayne after he flashes forward as well. And that is Vayne finally going down after avoiding so many different killing blows. She finally goes down to the little poison dart from Teemo. Renekton has teleported down bot though. He's coming around the corner to try and find this Teemo and Nidalee, who are both low on health. Teemo has placed a mushroom there, so they see him coming around. He gets slowed up by that. I don't know what Renekton is really looking to do here. It's a 3-on-1 situation. He could play this well enough if he could catch one of them out from the rest of the team, at least trying to get a gank there on Sivir in the mid lane. However, the cocoon gets blocked by a friendly minion, and Sivir's just going to keep pushing out that lane into the Ahri and trying to deny her as much creep as she can. She has built up for herself a 20 creep lead at this point in the game. Elise coming down, drops a ward into the Tribush. However, she's in a 2v1 situation here. She gets blinded by the Teemo, exhausted as well. She goes up into Repel. She's quite low on health, though. Can she finish off this kill? No, not before she goes down. Ahri now ulting in after the Ezreal. Misses the charm, though. Orb of Deception lands with the first proc on the Teemo, but the second proc does not hit. Teemo managing to escape there. Gragas throwing his ulti back onto the Ezreal, pulls him back into range of the Foxfire from the Ahri, so she picks up that kill. Ahri and Sivir both flash away from each other, neither one wanting to fight this, but then Ahri steps on a mushroom. Teemo picks up that kill from far away. The mushroom doing the work for him. Now Vayne is chasing after Sivir in the enemy jungle near the wolf camp. I think this Sivir is at a loss right now. Yeah, she's going to take another 2 tower shots, and the auto attack from Vayne was in time, but that's not an execute. It is a kill given over to the Vayne. Teemo hiding there. I wonder if they know that he's there. They do. The body slam lands onto Teemo, and then he gets condemned into the wall. He's blinded the Vayne to survive for a little bit longer, and he actually manages to make Gragas take the kill with that exploding barrel by doing that blind onto Vayne. So at least he forced the kill to go onto the support Gragas, but he still went down, as the Gragas did realize that there was a Teemo in the bush, and so he body slammed and knocked him out of his invisibility. Teemo's passive camouflage, by the way, if he stands still for long enough, turns him invisible to the enemy team until he moves again or gets moved again. And Gragas' body slam after the rework does include a small knock-up and a small displacement, so it does knock Teemo out of his passive, as we see Cho'Gath and Renekton dueling it out once again, both going fairly. It's a fairly even trade, as per the usual. Nothing new up there in the top lane, though the Renekton has managed to eke out for himself a nearly 20 CS lead, so he's going to slowly outscale this Renekton as he goes into the later game, especially if he keeps CSing as well as he has been doing. Landing some good trade on the Renekton actually brings him a lot lower than the Renekton is bringing him, and now Nidalee is up in the top lane. maybe going to be going for this tower dive, or maybe just going for the tower. They're going to push up the minions. The tower is already down below half health. Spear throw coming out from Nidalee at long range, as Renekton is pinging to ask for assistance, but I think it's going to be too little too late here if his friends do indeed come up. Ahri's roaming up from the middle lane. There might be an engage here as the turret goes down in the top lane. That is a 2-0 lead in turrets for blue team now, and a 9-7 lead in kills. A lot of members of both teams up here in the top lane. It's a 3v2, though they might not realize that, as Elise lands the cocoon out of the bush. Renekton then coming in with a stun onto Cho'Gath. Cho'Gath goes down in the end to the execute from Elise's spider form Q. And that is Cho'Gath going down, though they did manage to get the tower. So overall, I'd still say that blue team comes out ahead there, and they have the 2,000 gold lead on the map, so the gold's going to agree with me in that situation. Meanwhile, down in bottom lane, Teemo and Ezreal have been pushing up and are going after this inner turret. They're landing some auto attacks onto it now. The Ezreal has managed to finish up his Triforce at this point, so he's certainly hit a power spike right now, doing quite a lot of damage with those Qs. Teemo getting stunned up against the wall. They're really focusing onto this Teemo here. They do take him out. The Vayne went down quite low, but she's under her tower, and so they do manage to take out the Teemo without any repercussions, as now the Ahri going to be ulting around onto that Nidalee, trying to catch her out, using the charm to save her friendly Elise. The Gragas flashing forward and then body slamming onto the Ezreal. Perhaps overestimated his damage, though, as he goes down to the Ezreal, turning around and landing another Q after he arcane shifts forward, and that is the Gragas giving a kill over to Ezreal, as the Nidalee and Sivir are going to be pushing up middle lane. Brought the tower down to about half, but Renekton has roamed down from top, going to be stunning up Sivir. Nice charm landing from the Ahri immediately after the stun. Sivir's ulti running, so she's quite quick. Can the Renekton catch up in time? The Renekton does indeed, and actually the Ignite tick from Ahri finishes off that kill. Nidalee down at about half health, but she is Nidalee and she is slippery, and so manages to escape, but that is a kill going over to purple team with nothing traded back for blue aside from some damage onto the turret. However, Teemo has shown up now, and they look like they want to keep pushing up the middle lane, as Ezreal's going after that second turret down in bottom lane, letting it kill off as many minions as he can manage to before he takes it out entirely, wanting to deny as much CS as he can to the enemy Vayne. Good idea on his part. He's actually built up for himself a 40 CS lead or so. So that's certainly a big deal. The Ezreal certainly doing quite well out of the lane, down in bottom lane, and Vayne will scale up given enough time. If this game goes on for quite a length of time, Vayne will become a force to be reckoned with. However, at this point in the game, Ezreal, especially having just completed his Trinity Force, is going to be much more of a going to have much more of an impact on the match. Ezreal getting found in the enemy jungle there. He lands a Q onto Elise, but I don't know if they know when this blue buff is going to be spawning. They might. They have been around that area before in previous teamfights, so they might have the timer on it. They might just be positioning for this dragon, though, as Teemo has shroomed up the enemy jungle fairly well near the dragon pit. Those mushrooms do give objective control, if nothing else. Ezreal getting hit by the stun from Elise, but purple team not really wanting to go in on that. They don't know where the rest of blue team might be. And Ahri coming in, dashing forward with her ulti in the Spirit Rush. She lands a nice charm onto the Sivir. The Sivir down below half health at this point, forced to use heal to try and escape, as the Nidalee now getting ulted by the Gragas, as Ezreal and Vayne are in a 1v1. The Vayne winning this 1v1 actually, but she gets blinded by the Teemo, and a nice Q over the wall from Ezreal into that Triforce, going to take him out, and he doesn't go down to the Gragas. His ulti providing enough burst that he kills him off and gets the proc of Dangerous Game before he goes down to the damage from the Gragas. He was quite low, and even an auto attack would have finished him off, but the Gragas didn't quite have time to do it before he went down. Whew, that must be disappointing for the Gragas there. And Dragon is left alone. They both positioned around it quite a bit, and they both really fought for that dragon, but I guess both teams lost enough members in those team fights, or lost enough health, that they don't really want to consider going for the dragon here, and they're instead going to be pushing up the middle lane. Teemo around, dropping some more mushrooms in the enemy jungle, pretty deep in their jungle, down in that blue buff side of the enemy jungle, at least finding one of them and stepping on it. I know the frustration of finding Teemo mushrooms in your jungle, as she nearly steps on another one, but sidesteps it just in time to avoid taking that annoying damage and slow. She's going to be going after her wolf camp here, as Teemo's just wandering through the jungle once more, laying down mushrooms as he pleases. Though Ahri and Vayne are coming in from the side, they do see that Nidalee was in the jungle. They might be wanting to go for this. The Ahri steps on a mushroom, then face checks into the bush. He takes a lot of damage, forced to flash away, as Nidalee's going to be chasing after her now. Has her passive on, going to leap at her, but Teemo was left all alone by the Nidalee and goes down. The Elise picking up that kill. Ahri did go down off to the side from the Nidalee. Nidalee now in a bit of a pickle, though, being chased by the enemy team. Thankfully, she does have a lot of leaps to be able to escape, and she runs away. So that is a 1-for-1 trade as Gragas steps on yet another mushroom. Ezreal now around the corner, finds Gragas, lands another Q onto him, doing quite a bit of damage, but he gets hit by the belly slam, now being chased by Vayne as well. And the Elise gets stunned up by the Elise and then ulted by the Gragas, goes down in the end to an auto attack that Elise slips in there at the very end to finish off that kill. And while blue team still has the gold lead, that is a 2-for-0 trade that they just gave over to the enemy team, and Vayne picked up some much-needed gold there. So she's certainly going to start to come back into this game, and blue team really has to work with their advantage at this point if they want to finish out this game without any chance of the enemy team coming back. Because the enemy team does certainly have a good late-game team comp with that Vayne and the Ahri, going to be able to assassinate someone later game as well as teamfight very well with the amount of damage that Vayne does. Sivir's ulti being forced to be used there by the Renekton, who caught her a bit out of position, so the Sivir had to ult to run away very quickly and get away from the giant scary crocodile man, or alligator. I'm not sure. If you know whether he's an alligator or a crocodile, leave a comment in the comments below the video. I would love to know which genus he actually is a part of. And wow, we have a moment of quiet. We have a moment where someone isn't being killed. This is a rare thing, so I'm going to talk about the builds while I have a chance. The Ahri has opted for a very assassin-heavy build and is going for a Deathfire Grasp Rush, as we see Ezreal dashing forward towards her with the Arcane Shift. She takes quite a bit of damage. Now she's in a 1v1 duel with the Sivir. Nice spell shield from the Sivir blocking out the Orb of Deception. And she's forced to ult away from the Ezreal's Q there. Oh, she ults back in though, lands a charm onto Sivir, goes down though to the Teemo blind as well as a Q from the Ezreal. Perhaps she was a bit too cocky there with using that final charge of her ulti to go back in towards the enemy team. Thought that she could burst out the Sivir in time, but didn't quite have enough damage and went down herself for her hubris. Ezreal checking the enemy blue buff there with a Q over the wall and doesn't find it though since it's not up. I believe that Elise is wearing that one currently. And while I have a second of quiet here, I would like to talk about the builds again. Teemo, coming out of that support role, has opted to go for a full damage build. He's not built to Sightstone, he's not built to Spell Thief's Edge, he's going for Sorcerer's Shoes and Nashor's Tooth, just going for as much Teemo items as he can buy out of the gold that he gets from being a support. So it certainly helps him do a lot of damage in these fights, and he's gotten 6 kills for himself, so he does have enough gold to sustain the build somewhat. But I would have at least gone for the Sightstone myself if I were coming into that Teemo support role, but I suppose he does have the mushrooms to provide vision across the board. They don't have as wide a vision radius as a Sight Ward does, obviously, but they do provide some vision, and they certainly also are a bit more annoying to the enemy team than Sight Wards are. Renekton going in onto the Cho'Gath here, lands the stun onto the minion though, probably accidentally clicked onto that. Cho'Gath misses the rupture though, thankfully, and now they're just gonna duel it out with auto attacks. It's a wet noodle fight up in the top lane. Both of them are very tanky at this point. And we see that neither of them is going to be bringing the other one down, while Elise is going to be ganking in the mid lane onto this Sivir. She's forced to pop her ulti and her flash, flashing away from the cocoon that probably would have stunned her up. She's still going to be pushing up the mid lane though. Sivir just sidestepping that cocoon. Very nice dodge there, as now Elise and Vayne and Ahri are all together in the mid lane, pushing that one up as Gragas is sitting around the corner looking to ambush somebody perhaps. Perhaps this Ezreal, I don't know. Nidalee as well has joined her team. It's become a sort of impromptu ARAM in the middle lane. Teemo coming around from the side there. Nice stun landing from the Elise onto the Nidalee. However, that's not going to be enough for him to go in onto it as Gragas is walking awkwardly around the corner. Takes a bunch of poke as he does so. The ult coming out from Ezreal not going to be able to finish off that Elise. She goes up into Repel in time to dodge that. Now we have 4 members of blue team pushing up the middle lane while Cho'Gath is roaming down from top. Looks like they want to go for yet another turret. They have a 4-0 turret lead on the map currently, and if they get this one, that'll put them at 5-0, but it'll put them quite ahead in terms of total gold. They're already 5,000 ahead in terms of total gold on the board. If they get another turret, it's not going to get any better for Purple Team. Purple Team really needs to find some way to claw themselves back into this game. Gets a favorable team under a turret perhaps, maybe pick off someone. Feed some gold to their Vayne, because the Vayne is really going to be their greatest asset come these late game fights. Nice poke landing on Gragas there as he sweeps out that ward. And it looks like this turret's already down below half health. Elise takes some poke as well from the Nidalee Spear as Renekton dashing forward, trying to go in onto the Sivir. She spell shields though, and the Renekton, discouraged by that, is going to step away. And we've just had this long and extended push here. Siege coming out from blue team. The turret nearly down at this point. The good thing about blue team coming out with that Nidalee jungle and Teemo support is that they have 4 ranged champions on their team, so they're going to be able to push up and siege this tower very well. They have decent wave clear as well with the Sivir and the Teemo mushrooms. Renekton going into his ulti there, perhaps was thinking of an engage, but his team was not behind him. So that's kind of the Renekton ulti a little bit wasted there, as Cho'Gath has joined his team now, and it looks like they want to go for this turret. Maybe they could fall back and go for a dragon if they think of doing it, as the Gragas is just going to be throwing barrel after barrel over the wall. Nice cocoon landing from the Elise there, but I don't think that purple team can follow up on that. Are they finally going to get this turret? It's been quite a long push here. Renekton has been forced to roam up to top lane to deal with some of those minions that Cho'Gath pushed out before roaming down with his team. Blue team has discovered that purple team's blue buff is up, and they're going to be giving that over to Nidalee, and now they're going to be roaming down towards Dragon. They have the enemy jungle lit up with mushrooms, so it's going to be very difficult for purple team to come down and contest this if they choose to go for it, but instead they're going to be returning to mid lane and going for that push again, wanting to get this turret. But Vayne is basing at the moment, so it would be an opportune time to push and take that turret. Teemo just shrooming up, as Teemo does, placing mushrooms wherever people have walked them and destroyed them previously. As Cho'Gath clears out some of the waves, Teemo flashing over the wall, going after this Elise, who stepped on one too many mushrooms in the jungle, gets exhausted as well. There's both of Teemo's summoners down, but Teemo does get the shutdown gold off of Elise, as in the middle lane, a fight has broken out. Ahri has picked off the Ezreal, and the Teemo now exhausted and focused down by the entire enemy team. They do not like that little Yordle, as here goes Cho'Gath taking a bunch of damage as well. The Vayne having that percentage damage is going to be able to chunk away at his hit points. He's down quite low. Both him and Nidalee flash over the wall, though, trying to turn around, turn and burn on this fight. He does go down in the end to another auto attack from the Vayne, as now Nidalee and Sivir are chasing after the Gragas and Renekton. Gragas throwing about his barrel to discourage them from chasing. Nice charm landing from the Ahri onto Nidalee. She gets taken quite low, but thankfully is able to leap away before going down. And that is overall, I believe, a 2-for-1 trade in favor of purple team, though their turret did go down in the end after that extended push. And so that is a 5-0 turret lead for blue team. So even though the kills are even at 15 and 15 on the board, blue team does have about a 5,000 gold lead from the global gold, which they've picked up from those 5 turrets, as well as I believe they took a dragon earlier, though I may be misremembering. Don't quote me on that. I'm sorry if I'm wrong. And now I have a moment where people aren't attacking each other mercilessly. I am interrupted, though, by merciless attacks from this Teemo onto the Gragas. The Gragas, though, turns around, slows down the Teemo, and body slams as well, brings him quite low. At least then lands a stun, does a bunch of damage to him, but the Ezreal comes out onto the Vayne, who was taken very low by the Teemo and the Ezreal combined, and she goes down. Nice snipe out from the Ezreal, picking her off after that chase. And it just seems like purple team can't catch a break here, as Ahri steps on another mushroom. Those mushrooms are really chunking pretty hard now. Teemo has picked up a bunch of magic penetration for himself, haunting guys in sorcerer's shoes. The Ezreal gets hit by the Ahri Chun despite the arcane shift, and now he's going to go down. Quick amount of burst coming out from the Gragas and the Ahri. Gragas picking up that kill with his belly as he slams forward onto the Ezreal. And that is another kill going over to purple team after blue team picked one up not so long ago, and so the kill score is evened out again at 16 and 16. However, blue team is still ahead. They have the 5-turret lead. Teemo getting stunned up by the Renekton, but then healed back to full health by his friendly Nidalee, so not really much of a consequence in that little duel. Spear barely missing from Nidalee, going a little bit to the right of the Ahri. Speaking of Nidalee, I'd like to look at her build right now. Coming out of the jungle, she's opted to go for a very heavy damage build. She has a Trinity Force, a Elder Lizard, and looking to build a Blade of the Ruined King. As Teemo has been caught out by the enemy Elise, he does go quite low, but the Elise can't quite finish him off. However, he does get finished off in the end by the Ahri, who comes around with the rest of her team around the corner. Vayne now finishing off Sivir as well. This is so far a 2-for-0 for purple team. This is the turnaround fight that they needed, and they're going to be going for the dragon after this. They picked off 2 members of blue team, and now they're going to be taking a global objective to top it off, maybe going to be evening out that global gold a little bit. Gragas body slamming over the wall onto the Nidalee, brings her down pretty low, but she does have leaps and is able to get away. Ezreal now turning around the corner, arcane shifts forward into 2 enemies, and takes one of them down, though Vayne goes down immediately, and now Ahri ulted over the wall, got caught out by the Cho'Gath. Ezreal still alive over on the other side. He's going to intercept this Renekton coming around the corner. He tries to slice and dice away, and does manage to escape for now, actually. However, the spear from Nidalee lands onto him, so they have vision. He's quite low. Nidalee going to keep trying to chase after him. Gets slowed. Another spear going to land at max range. Nidalee on a rampage. Very, very nice spear toss there from her. Whew, that was a lot of action. The dragon, I believe, went over to purple team there, as well as a few kills, but then blue team came back at them after they'd finished it off and traded back a few kills of their own. Overall, blue team is up by about 4,000 gold rather than 5,000 now, so I suppose purple team dug themselves. Well, actually, you don't dig yourself out of a hole, so I suppose purple team climbed themselves a little bit out of a hole here, though they still have a good amount of a way to go. Sivir and Ezreal pushing up the mid lane. The thing that's nice about Teemo building a full damage build here is that blue team otherwise would have been very easy for the enemy team to itemize against. They've gone with a very heavily attack damage oriented comp. They have the Nidalee going AD out of the jungle, the Sivir going AD out of the mid lane, and Ezreal, of course, as an AD carry in the bot lane, is going to be building AD. So they have a very physical damage oriented team, since the Cho'Gath is building pure tank and not damage, so he'll be doing some magic damage, but not very much. This means that the Teemo building pure damage is actually sort of covering up one of the weaknesses of their team comp, as we see Vayne catching Ezreal on low health around the corner here, but the Ezreal does have some friends. Vayne going into final hour and tumbling back invisible onto the enemy. She gets blinded by Teemo, takes out the Ezreal, and when the blind wears off, she manages to pick up the Sivir as well. Renekton has come down to help her finish off the Teemo. She doesn't want to keep chasing after the Teemo. The Teemo has a bit too much burst damage for her liking. She gets hit by an auto attack with a Trinity Force proc from the Nidalee. The Nidalee now unstoppable, picking up that kill onto Vayne. Nice sidestep there from the Ahri, avoiding that rupture just barely as she manages to escape with the final charge of Spirit Rush. The second final charge of Spirit Rush. She uses the final one to go back in. As now Gragas chasing after the Cho'Gath over the wall there. Cho'Gath turning around with the rupture to stop his chase, and I really don't think that either one of these guys are going to be going down here. They're both quite tanky, and neither of them really have their team follow up. Though actually Nidalee turns around and goes back in onto the Gragas. She might have bit off a bit more than she can chew, though. She gets shut down by the damage from the Ahri, coming around behind the Gragas, doing a bunch of damage to her that she probably didn't expect. And that is a kill going over to Ahri there, and I believe that is a 1-4-3 trade. There was an extended engagement, and it's hard to remember exactly who died and when and where. It's a turret finally going onto the board for purple team, as we see a wet noodle fight going on between the Renekton and the Cho'Gath in middle lane. Renekton being forced to pop his ulti. He gets hit by the rupture. He's knocked up, and now Sivir has shown up to provide the damage, and Cho'Gath is going to finish off that kill with an auto attack, and that is Renekton going down as well. And so at the end result of all of that, that's a 3,000 gold lead now for the blue team. So purple team has pulled themselves a little bit farther out of that hole. They're getting... Each of these team fights brings them a little bit closer to evening out the gold score, and a little bit closer to getting onto an even footing in this match. And if they can reach an even footing by the time late game rolls around in another 5 to 10 minutes or so, they're certainly going to be able to have a fighting chance at winning this game. But with the Vayne that they have on their team, which I've mentioned a few times, as well as the fact that Ahri scales very well into the late game and can really assassinate one person, and the enemy team has a very squishy comp, so they're very prone to assassination. Ahri getting jumped on by the Ezreal out of that bush there. However, she does Zhonya's just in time to survive the last bit of damage that would have killed her after she charms the Ezreal, so she survives the ambush, and the Ezreal goes down instead. Now Sivir picking up a kill onto the enemy Elise, who's a bit too far overextended in the mid lane, gets picked up pretty easily by blue team there. Renekton dashing forward onto Sivir, going to stun her up after she burns ulti, however the heal coming out to save her life. Now Cho'Gath is the front line here. The Vayne chasing after in final hour, doing quite a bit of damage, bringing the Cho'Gath down to half health, forcing away the enemy team. No one goes down, but I believe that purple team did quite well for themselves there, was able to push away the blue team, as Teemo, though, is split pushing up in top, looking to get this inner turret for himself. Gragas coming up to discourage that split push, though, and looks like we have another moment of quiet, for probably just a moment, as looking down at the build, Ezreal has gone to pick up for himself a Infinity Edge as his second item, which really means that he's going for a more auto-attack focused build, since you can't actually crit on his Qs. Nidalee pushed up a bit too far in the top lane, gets caught out by 3 members of the enemy team. Renekton flashing forward to land that stun onto her. Nice charm, landing at max range from the Ahri, going to finish her off with the Foxfire, as Cho'Gath has caught out Vayne, though, with Sivir, and that's another kill going over the blue team. This game's been so even in terms of kill score, 23 to 24 currently. And Sivir pushing up the mid lane might get caught out here by the purple team, though Cho'Gath is off to the side and throws out a rupture to discourage the team from catching out his friendly mid laner in the form of Sivir. And so we have another quiet moment here. And I would like to talk again about the Ezreal's build. He's gone for an Infinity Edge and a Trinity Force as his first 2 items. So the Trinity Force is really going to synergize very well with his Q. His Q lands, and any auto attack enhancements get procced off of his Qs, such as the Sheen proc on Trinity Force. And so he manages to land quite a bit of burst damage with that item at long range with his Qs. However, the Infinity Edge doesn't work too well with his Q. It certainly provides a bunch of AD for him, but his Q cannot crit, whereas his auto attacks can. So he's looking to auto attack at short range and use Qs at long range, which I suppose every Ezreal is, but he's building sort of for both eventualities, as he's getting leapt on now by the Renekton. Gragas coming around the corner, going to be able to CC him up some. He tries to dodge out to the side, going over towards the wall, but doesn't get there in time to Arcane Shift over as Renekton finishes off that kill with the help of the Vayne. And actually, Gragas didn't even get an assist there since he was holding his CC in the eventuality that he needed it. Nice charm landing from the Ahri onto Sivir. Sivir then spell shields the second proc of the Orb of Deception, and Ahri dashes away from the second proc of the Boomerang. So they both have very similar mechanics on their Q, actually. I just realized as Teemo found the Ahri on low health in the jungle, flashed after her and threw out a blinding shot, and that was the end of that Fox. Teemo, though, might find his own end here, though. He's getting assaulted by 3 members of the enemy team. He goes down quite low, does pop some mushrooms down to try and slow up this Renekton, but he gets stunned up against the wall by the connection from Vayne, and Vayne finishes off that kill, giving her 9th kill of the game. As we see, Cho'Gath has roamed up towards top lane, but he doesn't have any team members around to help him out, so he's just going to wander away. A bit discouraged. Throws out the Rupture to slow down the enemy. Gragas chasing him, and the Teemo Mushrooms are going to do a pretty good job of that as well. He just is going to be keeping on the harass on this Gragas, who's brought down fairly low, as we see Nidalee roaming through her jungle, going for some jungle champs, and we've got a bit of another quiet moment here. So I'm going to take a look at the builds again. The Ahri has picked up a Elixir of Brilliance, looking for a little burst of potential here, trying to get some quick damage and cooldown reduction as Cho'Gath is again rocking out in the mid lane. I absolutely love that emote. I might consider picking up that Cho'Gath skin just for that, even though I barely ever play Cho'Gath. He's a fun champion, so don't get me wrong, but I don't know. I don't play him that much. There's over 115 champions in this game. Give me a break. As Blue Team is going to be slaying the dragon and picking up more of a global gold lead for themselves. They're now at 5,000 gold lead again on the map, so Purple Team has fallen back down into the pit. And Cho'Gath is going to be rocking out there at the inhibitor turret, where his team members are going to be pushing up and trying to get the first inhibitor turret of this game. Gragas dashing in and trying to ult onto the Sivir, however, Sivir spell shields it pretty nicely, and so the Gragas ult is just kind of wasted there, not knocking anybody around. Teemo sweeps out that ward the enemy team places over the wall, doesn't want them having any vision of where he's placing down these mushrooms, wants the mushrooms locations to be top secret until the enemy team steps on them, of course. Charm from the Ahri just barely missing, though even if it had connected, the Sivir had a spell shield running, so it wouldn't have meant anything. Renekton now chasing after Ezreal again. I have a bit of deja vu. However, it's Blue Team members coming around the corner now rather than Purple Team ones, and Renekton's the one in trouble. He's forced to pop his ulti to get the extra hit points. He goes down in the end to an auto attack from the Kitty Cat, and that is Nidalee picking up another kill for herself, putting her at 7 and 3. The kill scores across this game are just insane. Everybody seems to have at least 3 kills. Everybody seems to have at least 3, if not more, kills, as we see that Sivir is going after the Gragas here. Spell shields his Q. Gragas turns around with the body slam to discourage her from chasing, and now Blue Team's going to be grouping up in the middle lane, looking to push up that inhibitor turret finally. The Cho'Gath tanking up a few tower shots so that Sivir can get in there and throw out an auto attack or two. And with all of these ranged AD champions, they can really melt these turrets once they actually get onto them. The inhibitor turret is going down very low, very fast. It's already broken down. That's the middle inhibitor turret having gone down for Purple Team, and it looks like they're going to be losing their inhibitor as well. And this is the first inhibitor of the game going over to Blue Team, who now have a nearly 7,000 gold lead on the board. This is starting to look pretty bleak for Purple Team. The game has already hit late game, and they're still falling further and further behind, so that's not showing up good for them. The heal coming out to save Gragas' life from that boomerang as Ezreal was caught between a rock and a hard place, gets stunned up against the wall. Vayne tumbling into final hour, going after the Cho'Gath, getting the shutdown gold on him. She's certainly going to like that, as now Gragas dashes over the wall to CC up the Teemo. That's a double kill. That is a double kill for Vayne, a kill for Ahri, and I believe that Gragas got the first kill there at the beginning of that engagement, and it's a 4-0 trade with Purple Team getting the 4 and Blue Team getting the O. They're now going to push up the mid lane, take out this first super minion here that's been sent up their middle lane, and now roam over to the Baron pit to take that. The enemy team has at least 30 seconds on all of their death timers, so they're not going to be able to contest this unless Nidalee can pull off a miracle save. She's all the way on the other side of the map, so I really think this is going to be going over to Purple Team, especially since Vayne can melt through that Baron's hit points so very quickly with percentage chunks on silver bolts. Yeah, that's Baron going over to purple team here. Vayne getting the final blow onto that. Nidalee nearby trying to get the steal, but throwing the spear a little bit too late to be able to pick that up. Does leap away though, doesn't get caught out by the enemy team thankfully, but that is a big chunk of gold going over to purple team, who go from a 7,000 gold deficit to only a 3,000 gold deficit, and the artificial gold which Baron gives you while it's running is certainly going to make up for that 3,000 gold deficit, probably put them ahead in terms of effective gold while they have the buff running on them. So they really need to pick a fight right now. They're at their peak. This is the best they've been this whole game, and so they really need to pick a fight now. Try and get a team fight with their Vayne there to capitalize on the team fight. And if they can manage to do that and not get picked off by the team on the jungle, who gets picked off himself actually, killing spree for Ahri, just her one rotation of spells brings out down the Teemo, who has gone for a very squishy build. Double kill now for Ahri, the charm not landing onto Ezreal after he shifts away. And Renekton is chasing after him. Renekton getting taken fairly low. The Ezreal is very slippery, hard for them to catch. They do decide not to keep chasing after that. However, Cho'Gath gets stunned up, but he does have Mercury's Tread, so he's able to get out of that CC fairly quickly. Ezreal still playing with fire here, wandering up towards the enemy team and throwing out a Q every now and then. If he's not careful, he could get hit by some CC here. The Elise coming around behind him. He's already arcane shifted away, so if Elise can land this cocoon, he might go down. The cocoon does not, in fact, land. Not quite close enough for Elise to land that. As purple team going to be pushing up the bottom lane, they really need to get some more turrets onto the board as well. They're 6-1. They're at the 1, by the way, behind in turrets, and so that's something they probably need to rectify fairly quickly if they want to have a hope of winning this game, a solid hope of coming out with a victory in this match. This long, extended, and fight-filled match that has me nearly dry in the throat. And blue team has sent some minions up to the top lane. They're going to be split pushing out that up there. Ahri stepping on a mushroom, taking quite a chunk of damage. Teemo has finished out his Leander's Torment at this point, which really makes those mushrooms hurt quite a lot, since Leander's Torment damage over time effect is doubled if the enemy is slowed, and Teemo's mushrooms slow. So it really works very well with Teemo's mushroom effects, and makes those shroom bombs hurt even more and be even more annoying. The Ezreal still playing with fire here, always has at least 2 or 3 members of the enemy team nearby, and he always manages to avoid getting caught out. So kudos to him, though. Eventually it might turn around on him, so he might want to try out a different strategy there if he doesn't want to end up on the wrong end of a Spider Bite or a Vayne Silver Bolt. Teemo going to counter jungle the enemy red buff, wants to give that over to his Sivir, who does pick it up. She does quite well with the red buff, since she has the passive, which whenever she lands an auto attack, she gets a speed buff when she lands an auto attack onto an enemy champion, that is. And so that speed buff combined with slow from red buff makes her very, very difficult to get away from if she's auto attacking you. Charm landing on the Cho'Gath there, but probably not the one that Ahri was aiming for. Cho'Gath does take a bit of damage, but he's Cho'Gath, he'll be alright. He has quite a lot of health to go around. The purple team, despite having a Baron buff, is the one being pushed in onto now. Nice Rupture landing from Cho'Gath, however, it might have been a little bit too deep into the enemy team. Nidalee goes in to try and capitalize on that CC, but goes down as the Cho'Gath as well goes down to the Gragas, and now a triple kill coming out from Elise as Gragas picks up the kill onto Cho'Gath. Cho'Gath losing a lot of his feast stacks from that death. Ezreal trying to base in the enemy jungle is sitting right on top of a ward, though. Takes a lot of damage from the Renekton. Might not be able to escape here, actually. Renekton has built a frozen mallet and is slowing him down with every auto attack. Ezreal forced to pop heal for the little speed buff to try and escape. Throws back a Q now and then. I think he's going to be able to get away from this one. He is very slippery, very difficult for them to catch. It's a little bit cocky of him to keep chasing after the Renekton like that, but he's basing right next to the Renekton. I really think, yeah, Renekton's just going to dash towards him and stop his base from going through, while Vayne is picking up that Dragon Gold for himself. And a turret goes down in the middle lane. This is purple team for once ahead in terms of gold, while Ezreal, perhaps paying for his cockiness earlier, is going to get ulted back by the Gragas, who has shown up down in bottom lane as well, diving under the tower, and Renekton picks up the ace. There's another turret going down. Suddenly, blue team picks up 3 turrets, a dragon, and an ace for themselves, and puts themselves at the 5,000 gold advantage. There's another turret going down. 4 turrets, a dragon, and an ace. And now maybe 5 turrets? 5 turrets, a dragon, and an ace. Evening up the turret score, more than evening up the gold score. And this is looking really bad for blue team. They really needed to capitalize on the early advantage they had, since Vayne's just gonna keep getting stronger. She hasn't even hit full items yet. She still has another item to build, probably a Guardian Angel, but perhaps she might go for another damage item. As Ahri is looking to make it a turret lead for Purple Team, going to be taking out this top lane inner turret. That is a 7-6 turret lead that Purple has. The first time they've had a turret lead in this game. And the first time they've had a significant gold lead as well. They are at 6,000, 6 to 7,000 gold ahead of their opponents, while they just return to the jungle and farm up some of those camps, and we have a bit of a lull in the action here. Again, I would like to take a look at the Gragas' build. He's gone for a very magic resistance heavy build, which I actually question a little bit, seeing as the enemy team does have a Teemo, which is a very annoying champion, and so you want to have magic resistance to deal with that. The Banshee's Veil I can understand. Walking onto a mushroom and having it not do anything is a wonderful feeling. However, the enemy team has a Ezreal, Nidalee, and Sivir all building pretty heavy AD. The Nidalee has opted to go for a more bruiser build now that we're later on into the game, picking up a Spirit Visage and a Warden's Mail. Probably going to turn that into a Randuin's Omen once she has the gold to do that. So I'm a little bit surprised at the amount of magic resistance that the Gragas has chosen to pick up. He has given a token gesture over to the armor side of things by picking up a Sunfire Cape as well. But he really just doesn't want to have to deal with those Teemo mushrooms very much, and I can understand where he's coming from. They're annoying. They're annoying little things. As we see the Vayne stepping on one herself, going down fairly low from the damage over time effect of that. Though she has picked up Spectral's Cowl, so she has some magic resist as well. So she's not going to be taking quite as much damage as perhaps she would have before from those Teemo mushrooms. As we see Purple Team pushing up the middle lane, going perhaps to try and get an inhibitor turret or an inhibitor of their own, as their inhibitor has respawned in the middle lane. Baron going to be up in 8 seconds, and Purple Team has that timer. They're bringing a bunch of their team members up that way. All 5 of them actually are nearby, and they've swept out the pit. They know that there are no mushrooms or wards to be found there. Renekton getting jumped on by 3 members of the enemy team as he roams up the middle lane going towards the Baron. The Baron going down quite low, though. It's taken out already by Vayne. Again, he gets the final auto attack onto that. And now Purple Team is chasing after the enemy Blue Team. The ult from Gragas not going to be knocking anyone back into him as the Ezreal does Arcane Shift out in time. However, Ahri manages to get a charm onto the Nidalee, who goes down. Right afterwards, the Cho'Gath goes down to Vayne as well, while Renekton has found Teemo all by himself. Not going to continue to chase him into the jungle, though. Good idea. Try not to chase a Teemo if you don't know where he's going to be running to, since he's really just a distraction at this point. The Mushroom not going to be proving to be enough defense for this inhibitor as it goes down. Ezreal ulti flying across the enemy team, but Blue Team has surrendered, and in a turnaround victory, Purple Team takes the game. See you tomorrow, guys. GG. Thanks for watching, guys. Want your replay featured on the channel? Check the description. You can figure out how to do that down there. Are you an amateur shoutcaster who's looking for somebody to duo with? I'm starting up a new series soon, and I'd love to talk to you, so send me a message or comment on the video. Anyways, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching.